Fellow gardeners, let me share something that changed my entire gardening game forever. 3 years ago, I was that frustrated gardener wondering why my plants looked lackluster despite following every care guide to the letter. Then I discovered the magic of truly humus-rich compost, and suddenly everything clicked. Today, I'm going to walk you through the exact process I use to create what I call black gold compost, so rich in humus that your plants will practically jump out of the ground with excitement. Before we dive into the how-to, let's talk about what makes humus so special. Humus isn't just decomposed organic matter. It's the final stage of decomposition where organic materials have transformed into stable, nutrient-rich compounds that can feed your plants for years. Think of it as the difference between fast food and a perfectly aged wine. Regular compost feeds your plants quickly but burns out fast. Humus-rich compost creates a slow-release buffet that keeps giving season after season. The key difference lies in the decomposition process. When organic matter breaks down completely, it forms complex molecules that bond with soil particles, creating that coveted crumbly texture we all dream about. This humus acts like tiny sponges, holding nutrients and water while maintaining perfect drainage. It's why forest floors are so incredibly fertile. Nature has been perfecting this process for millions of years. Creating humus-rich compost starts with understanding that we're not just making a pile, we're creating a controlled ecosystem. I learned this the hard way after years of throwing scraps in a corner and wondering why I got slimy, smelly mess instead of garden gold. Your compost system needs 3 essential zones: active composting, curing, and finished humus storage. I use a 3-bin system made from pallets, but you can achieve the same results with tumbler bins or even carefully managed piles. The secret is having space to move materials through different stages without rushing the process. Location matters more than most people realize. Choose a spot that gets morning sun but afternoon shade. Too much heat speeds decomposition but reduces humus formation. You want that sweet spot where beneficial microorganisms thrive without the pile overheating. I keep mine near my tool shed where I can easily access it, but it doesn't dominate the garden aesthetic. Here's where most home composters go wrong. They focus on the famous 30-to-1 carbon-to-nitrogen ratio without understanding what that really means for humus development. After countless batches, I've learned that the magic happens when you layer materials strategically rather than just mixing them together. Start each layer with carbon-rich materials: dried leaves, shredded paper, cardboard, or sawdust from untreated wood. These materials provide the structure that allows air to flow through your pile while feeding the fungi that create stable humus compounds. I save autumn leaves in mesh bags specifically for this purpose. They're compost gold. Your nitrogen sources should be diverse and fresh. Kitchen scraps, grass clippings, coffee grounds, and fresh plant trimmings. But here's the insider secret. Add these in thin layers, never thick clumps. A 2-inch layer of grass clippings will create anaerobic pockets that produce methane instead of humus. Spread that same amount over a larger area, and you'll feed beneficial bacteria without creating dead zones. The game-changer ingredient that most people overlook is partially decomposed organic matter from your previous batches. This compost activator introduces the mature microbial community that accelerates humus formation. I always reserve about 20% of my finished compost to seed new piles. Water management separates amateur composters from humus masters. Your pile should feel like a wrung-out sponge, moist throughout but never soggy. Too dry and decomposition stalls. Too wet and you create anaerobic conditions that produce acids instead of stable humus compounds. I check moisture by grabbing a handful of material from deep in the pile. It should hold together when squeezed, but crumble easily when poked. If water drips out, add dry carbon materials immediately. If it won't hold together, it's time for a gentle watering session. Seasonal moisture management requires different strategies. During dry summers, I create shallow depressions in the pile surface to catch rain. In wet seasons, I cover the pile with a tarp but leave the sides open for airflow. The goal is consistency. Dramatic moisture swings stress the microbial community and slow humus development. Temperature tells the story of your pile's health. A properly built pile will heat up to between 130 and 160 degrees Fahrenheit within about a week, stay hot for several weeks, then gradually cool as materials break down. This thermal progression is crucial for humus formation. The cooling phase is when fungi take over and create those stable compounds we're after. I use a compost thermometer to monitor this process, but you can, also gauge it by feeling the heat radiating from the pile center. When temperatures start dropping after the initial hot phase, that's your cue to turn the pile. This isn't about reheating it, it's about introducing oxygen to support the beneficial organisms creating humus. Turning technique matters enormously. I move outside materials to the center and center materials to the outside, but I do this gently. Aggressive turning destroys the fungal networks that create humus. Think of it as fluffing, not mixing. After turning, the pile should look layered and loose, not homogenized. This is where most people rush the process and miss out on the real treasure. Once your pile stops heating and shrinks to about half its original size, the real humus formation begins. This curing phase takes 6 to 12 months, but it's where ordinary compost transforms into something extraordinary. During curing, I barely touch the pile except for occasional moisture checks. The magic happens slowly as complex organic molecules form and bind with mineral particles. You'll know it's happening when the compost develops that rich, earthy smell and deep brown-black color. The texture becomes incredibly fine and crumbly, almost like coffee grounds mixed with forest soil. I've learned to embrace this waiting period by maintaining multiple piles at different stages. While one pile cures, I'm actively building the next one. This rotation system ensures I always have humus-rich compost ready when planting season arrives. Even experienced composters face challenges. Foul odors usually indicate anaerobic conditions. Add dry carbon materials and turn gently to introduce oxygen. If your pile isn't heating up, you likely need more nitrogen-rich materials or better moisture levels. Pest problems often signal imbalanced ingredients. Flies love fresh food scraps that aren't properly buried under carbon layers. Rodents indicate exposed food waste. Always cover fresh additions with 4 to 6 inches of carbon materials. The most common mistake I see is expecting quick results. Humus formation cannot be rushed. Commercial compost accelerators might speed initial decomposition, but they often interfere with the slow processes that create stable humus. Trust the natural timeline, your patience will be rewarded with superior soil amendment. When your compost reaches that perfect humus-rich stage, use it strategically for maximum impact. I mix it directly into planting holes for new trees and shrubs where it creates long-term soil improvement. For vegetable gardens, I apply a 2-inch layer each spring, working it gently into the top 6 inches of soil. The transformation in your garden will be remarkable. Plants develop stronger root systems, require less water, and show improved disease resistance. Soil structure improves dramatically. Clay soils become workable, sandy soils retain moisture better, and everything in between becomes that perfect loamy texture we all crave. Your humus-rich compost is also perfect for making compost tea, creating potting mixes, and top-dressing established plants. Unlike raw compost, mature humus won't burn plants or tie up nitrogen, making it incredibly versatile. Creating humus-rich compost transforms you from someone who gardens to someone who builds living soil ecosystems. The process teaches patience, observation, and respect for the intricate biological processes that sustain all plant life. Every handful of finished compost represents months of beneficial organisms working together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. Start your first pile this week, even if it's small. Document the process, note what works in your climate and conditions, and remember that every expert was once a beginner who refused to give up. Your future self, and your plants, will thank you for taking this crucial step toward true soil mastery. If this guide helped spark your composting journey, hit that subscribe button and share this video with fellow gardeners who are ready to discover the transformative power of humus-rich compost. Together, we're building a community of soil-savvy gardeners who understand that healthy soil is the foundation of everything we grow. What's your biggest composting challenge? Drop a comment below. I read every single one and love connecting with fellow Soil Sensei community members.